For our next speaker, you guys are about to get an absolute masterclass on leadership. We have coming up to the stage here someone who's in the business 40 under 40, founder of V3 Electric with 500 employees, and #1 best-selling author of Core-4 Leadership. Let's give it up for Alec Nethercott.
Yes, thank you. No hecklers, I'm prepared to deal with you. So I got into door-to-door sales in 2008. Some of you might have been in diapers back then. I realized that, which is kind of weird for me. But 2008, this is me holding my sandwich. And this is 22-year-old Alec. I'm standing next to 38-year-old Alec, which is, I'm old guy now, I guess. But I have a lot of gratitude for this job. I look back at those early days, knocking doors, those sales commissions. Those are, that was hard-fought money. Like that was the hardest earned money, and I have a lot of gratitude for that. My wife and I, it's helped us just build a beautiful life. It's been the vehicle to have some amazing experiences, and we've got 4 beautiful daughters. We live on a small farm in Northern California, and I just look back with a lot of gratitude on this job, and I hope that I can share a lot of value with you today. As a rep, starting out, I had a formula for success, a simple formula for success, and it was a 2-part formula. Some of you may have the same thing, but that formula for success was, #1, pitch enough decision makers, and #2, say the pitch the right way. And I knew that even when my emotions got the better of me and it was hot outside and I didn't feel like doing it, if I could come back to that simple formula, pitch enough decision makers and say the pitch the right way, that I could be successful. And that formula was really helpful for me managing sales reps over the years, because anytime they would try to make excuses, it's a million other things and what the problem really is, I could always bring them back to that simple formula. Hey, are you pitching enough decision makers, and are you saying the pitch the right way? And that was really helpful, because it's like, the problem is it's too hot, or this area's been hit, or a million other reasons. It's simple to have, it's a good thing to have formulas. And that's one takeaway I want you to have, is that you want to have systems. I don't believe that I'm any better than anybody else. I'm a very ordinary guy. I don't believe anyone's better than anybody else. We're all equal. But I've learned that successful people are just ordinary people with systems that they stay consistent with. And those systems, even as like a sales manager, those systems are really important, because without systems, every day we're just kind of flying by the seat of our pants, winging it, and you want to have systems. You want to be a professional. So let's talk about formulas for a second. Is there anyone who knows what formula this is? Any math nerds out there that know what this is? What did you say? Yeah, the quadratic formula. Thank you. This is the quadratic formula. It's used to solve quadratic equations. If you remember quadratic equations from like high school algebra, it's like the x squared plus 2x plus 4. You remember those kind of equations? Anyway, I remember being in high school, and my teacher puts that up on the board, and I'm thinking, there's no way. I don't even know what I'm looking at. I don't know how to solve this. Then he explains this formula. He says, well, the way that you solve it is with a formula. And so it's like, I see the formula and I get even more confused. It's like, there's no way I'm going to be able to solve this. He says, no, you can extract A, B, and C from the equation. You put it into the formula, and it's going to spit out the right answer. So sure enough, full of doubt, but sure enough, I go in there, I work it out, B squared minus, I plug it in, and out pops an answer. It pops a number. So I go to the back of the book, and sure enough, it was the right answer. And I didn't know why it worked, I didn't know how it worked, but that didn't really matter, because I got the desired result. And so I've never really forgot about that. I love formulas. I always liked math over English. English class, it's just the teacher's opinion of whatever you wrote, but with math, you can get the answer right or wrong. And so I've found that really helpful to use formulas, use systems. Okay, so fast forward to 2014. We're trying to start a business. This is in Folsom, California. Has anybody been to Folsom, California, by the way? You know where Folsom is? Okay, great. That's where I grew up. That's where I went to high school. It's a great place. But honestly, I'm glad somebody snapped this photo, because I don't have a lot of photos from this period of life. These were dark times. Like those first 4 years starting the business and trying to grow the sales team, grow the construction side of the business. These were dark times. Is there anybody here who's building? Like, are you actively recruiting or trying to scale? Anybody doing that right now? Okay, most of the people in the room. So it's a hard job, yes or no? It's difficult. What are some of the things you're struggling with? Like, what are some of the, you can raise your hand and just kind of shout it out. Like, what are some of the things that make it hard? Why is it not easy? Why can't anybody just do it? Rejection. What? Fall off from reps. Maybe competitors stealing your reps. Maybe trying to recruit. Yeah. Saturation. Like market saturation. Like doors being knocked. Okay. Yep. Okay. Perfect. What else? What'd you say? Promotions? Oh, emotions. 100%. Dealing with emotions. Yep. Commission. Dealing with pay stuff, and on and on and on. Yeah, rep drama, pay discrepancies, late nights. You know, you're a marriage therapist. Like it goes on and on. So it's a hard job, and honestly, that's why most people never get good at it. That's why usually when you hear people talk about their manager, it's like they're complaining. And so for years, I would hear that, and anytime I would hear somebody raving about their manager, that they just like, oh, just wait till you meet him. Like Kyle Nielsen, I don't know if Kyle's in the room right now, but I met, before I knew Kyle, I knew everything I needed to know about Kyle because I met one of his reps who had worked with him for years and the way that he talked about him. Does that make sense? So anytime I would hear someone rave about their manager, I'd get really curious because you don't always hear that. It's like, okay, well, why? Like, tell me, like, why do you feel that way? What are those attributes? And one of the reasons for me that made this time so difficult was I didn't have a formula. I had a formula for success to train sales reps, but not to do things like recruiting and scaling and back end and all the things that leaders do. And so I go over this more in the kind of the story behind this in the book, but over the years I developed a formula, a model that I would use to help develop myself and also the people that I worked with. And over the years, I developed what was called the Core-4 leadership formula, and this is what the book is about. For me, this has been an invaluable tool. Just my job, I've been super, super lucky. I've been able to share dinner tables with, and do interviews with, and just get to know on a really close level some of the best leaders in the sales industries. Roofing, pest control, alarms, solar, real estate, insurance. And I'll tell you that the people at the top of these organizations, those leaders, they're the real deal. They're class acts, and they have what I call the 4 multipliers, which I'm going to get into here in a second. The leadership formula is I equals V times S times C times A. What does I stand for? I stands for influence. How do you measure a leader's effectiveness? By their influence. How do you increase a leader's influence? By increasing vision, skill, character, and action. These are what I call the 4 multipliers. I call them multipliers because they multiply on their effectiveness. It increases your influence. And a leader might rise to a leadership position of manager or supervisor or whatever because they have 1 or 2 of these attributes, but they'll never break out. They never become great, in my experience, until they have all 4. Okay, vision, skill, character, and action. So I'm going to go through each of these 4. You guys still with me? Yep. Okay, let's go to vision. Okay, leaders with vision are inspiring and magnetic. I think of this story of Steve Jobs. He's 27, 28 years old. He needs to find a new CEO for Apple computers. He goes after this guy named John Sculley. And John Sculley is the CEO of PepsiCo, like the drink. One of the highest paid CEOs in the country. And as the story goes, he's trying to recruit John Sculley. John Sculley turns him down. He's like, no, I got a good gig. I'm not going to work for this new kind of tech startup. And Steve Jobs gets him on the phone after being rejected. He says, listen, no offense, John, but do you want to be remembered for selling sugar water the rest of your life? Or do you want to come with me and change the world? And John quit his job at PepsiCo and went and became the next CEO of Apple. That's the influence when you're inspiring and magnetic. Martin Luther King, we just celebrated him recently, was so amazing at building a following and amassing this following because he was an evangelist for this brighter future. And it inspired people, and they wanted to help him build that future. It wasn't about the money, it was about the cause. So what does vision look like? Number 1, leaders with vision, they think big. They think beyond just making money. They see a brighter future, and that inspires us. Your small plans don't inspire anybody. It's the big thinking that's inspiring. It's a brighter future. Number 2 is they're evangelists for a worthy cause. When I say evangelists, I mean that they have the ability to articulate that. So in other words, it's not just that they think big, but it's that they articulate it, that they share it, that they're getting you on board, they're inspiring you. And that ability is a separate skill set. Being able to be that evangelist for a cause, that you stand for something, a worthy cause beyond just making money. It's much bigger than that. And then number 3 is ambition for the cause, not vain ambition. Ambition is a good thing, but vain ambition, like personal ambition, can actually be quite dangerous. What you want is these leaders have ambition for the cause. Or in other words, they understand that what we can do together is way more than what any one of us, even at our very best, could do alone. Okay, so how to develop vision? Number 1, tell them what you see. Again, this is that ability to articulate it. Tell them what you see. Paint a picture. Don't forget, it's not just enough to do your Sunday planning and keep it to yourself. It's share it. Share with them what could be. And paint a picture for them. Help them see what they could be a part of. I want to share a quick story. So I grew up in a beautiful time in the emo phase, okay? Like the emo era. And emo meant something different back then. It just meant really great music is what it meant. But honestly, it was just an amazing time to be alive. And this is when I went through high school. But I wanted more than anything to be in a band, like Blink-182. Or Green Day, or I wanted to be in a band, but no one would let me in. So I had to start my own band, and I had to recruit a bassist and a drummer and a lead guitarist, and I wrote all these songs, and that was some of my those are some of my first experience in management, was getting everybody to stop fighting and, not be flaky and show up on time and learn these original songs. And frankly, one of the hardest parts was, half the time our drummer was on mushrooms, and which, you guys are friends with Doug. I know you know what I'm talking about. I know you're into that stuff. I'm just kidding. But that was just getting my bandmates to show up on time and take it seriously. I had to sit down with them. I remember specifically a few conversations I had with them. Like, guys, listen, this is not just about getting girls, okay? This is not just about looking cool. We could use this as a vehicle to do some pretty rad stuff. We could use this, we could open for some big bands. You may even use this on your resume someday. I remember saying that to them. And, because they weren't taking it seriously, but I took it seriously. I was like, I'm serious about this. This was from senior year. We got to do some pretty cool stuff. We won first place in this regional battle for the bands. You see our little emo pic here in the top, which is kind of funny. Anyway, we won this regional battle for the bands. We got to open for Panic at the Disco. This is me hanging out with Travis Barker. We got to hang out backstage with him and Fall Out Boy. And anyway, it was, for me as a teenager, this was important to me, and we used this band as a vehicle to do some pretty rad stuff. But the point that I want to make is that before it was a reality, it was a dream. And it was a dream that had to be articulated. I couldn't have done that by myself. I needed a band. And getting people on board. And that's really what leaders do, is they get people on board, rowing in the same direction. Let's tell them what you see. Number 2, ambition for the cause. Drop your vain ambition. Understand that what you can do together as a team with people that are united, rowing in the same direction, what you can do together is way more than what you could do, even at your best, by yourself. And I hope you can see that. What is the quote? If you want to go fast, you heard this? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I hope that you internalize that. I hope that you understand that. Everybody's going to come to your team. You're going to recruit people that have come from different backgrounds, and they're going to have the mercenary mindset, or they're going to look out for the number 1. Everybody eventually needs to learn that we're better together. It's very important. And then number 3, think bigger. Think bigger. Once again, your small plans, your small goals, they're not inspiring anybody. We need to think bigger. Some examples of this are, think about Elon Musk. This guy, I can't watch enough interviews of Elon Musk. Or his autobiography, I also recommend. This guy just thinks so big. You listen to him, and you just want to help him. You just want to join his cause. He's like, I want to colonize Mars. You're like, who's saying that? He's building rocket ships competing with national governments. Like he's playing so big that it's so inspiring. So think bigger. Here's a quote for you. Make no small plans. They have no magic to stir one's blood. Okay, the next one is skill. This is multiplier number 2. Skill, leaders with skill are impressive and competent. The first example I thought of was this scene. It kind of perfectly, embodies what I'm talking about. Is this scene from Wolf of Wall Street? And no, I didn't watch the movie because it's rated R, but I did see some clips. And it's this scene where he goes to work for this crappy penny stock company, and there's just these kind of lousy salesmen, low skill, and he goes in there and he starts setting records, and he's just selling tons of these crappy stocks. And eventually, everybody's just gathering around listening to him. Like they can't learn enough from this guy because he's a master in skill. That's kind of an example of the influence that's gained. And as the story goes, by the way, they all leave their jobs and they go to work with him because they want to work for a master. Like that's the kind of influence that you build when you're able to showcase your skill. It's like you get this star power by getting better at skill. Leaders with skill are experts at their craft. They're master communicators. When I say experts at their craft, I mean, nowadays we live in a world where people don't want to work with amateurs, okay? Like, they want to work with pros. If you have a plumbing issue at your house, like you're not going online and you're looking for some, hobbyist plumber that also has a real estate license and, kind of dabbles in plumbing. It's like, no, you're looking for 5 stars. You're looking for a pro. You're looking for someone that's going to solve your problem, that knows what they're doing. Do people look at you that way? You right now, are you looked at as someone who's committed and all in and a pro at what you do? Or do they see you as kind of like, he's kind of wishy-washy, right? Like these leaders are pros. Master communicators is number 2. They're cool, calm, and collected. They're able to diffuse heated situations. They're able to use diplomacy. They're able to they're persuasive in the way that they talk. They're great at sales. And number 3 is the ability to duplicate. Number 3 is the ability to be an effective trainer. I want you to think of the old school practice of like apprenticeships, where you'd go and there'd be these master painters or carpenters, and they would get people to work for them for free or for very little money. Why? Because they wanted to learn from a master. And again, that's what's going to attract people to you, is being able to train. Has anyone seen that? They've seen somebody sell before and it just inspired them? Like maybe you were in a rut or something and then someone pitched a certain way and you're like, I could do that. It just gives you that confidence. Okay, next one is character. And this one's really important. Sales gets a bad rap for this, and I think that should stop with us. I think that that's important, that we really work on developing this trait. Leaders with character are trusted and admired. I think of Honest Abe Lincoln. He's known as Honest Abe. This guy was such a great leader. He's known for his humility, and he brought together a war-ravaged country after the Civil War. They wanted to split up. They hated each other. But he put his personal beef aside, he put his ego in check, and he focused on forgiveness and healing a wounded nation, and he brought our country back together. Our country might not look the same if it wasn't for this single guy right here, what he did. You got Coach John Wooden in the middle here. Any John Wooden fans? He's like the coolest. John Wooden was a UCLA basketball coach. John was known, or Coach Wooden, was known as having a really high trust and connection with his team. He cared more about their development as young men than he did about winning games. And the irony is that they won 10 NCAA championships in college basketball because he had that trust and connection. Does that make sense? What does it look like to have character? Number 1, integrity and dependability. You do what you say. These leaders do what they say. They're firm foundations to build on. They're not wishy-washy. If they say they're going to do something, they do it. You follow up with them. If they did something, they always did it. Number 2, they're principle-centered. They're not driven by their urges and their appetites like an animal. They're driven by principles, by values. And every decision they make, they check against their values. Does it fit my values? Ashton talked about this with decision-making and how he wanted to react. Are you just reacting, or are you choosing your reaction? Are you choosing your response? being principle-centered. And then number 3 is high connection and trust. I think this is really important. Leaders that have high connection and trust, this is the relationship that you have with your reps. This is your relationship that you have with your people. And really, business is relationships. I've seen time and time again that business leaders or sales managers, I've seen them lose good people because they lack that connection, that relationship. And it causes problems that don't need to exist when you can just show appreciation. Connect with them, ask about their family, have some empathy, and understand what their goals are. Don't just try to ram your vision or your goals, what you think they need to do down their throat. It's, let me hear what do you want, and I want to help you get what you want. I want to see you win. Kyle Nielsen's a great example of this, by the way. Okay, so I want to share some pieces of research with you that were staggering to me, that I think about all the time. The first one is this idea of warmth and strength. When I say warmth, I'm talking about that connection. I'm talking about skills like, empathy and understanding and asking questions and being a good listener. And when I say strength, leaders that have strength, I'm talking about things like competency and skill and assertiveness and, having high standards, okay? And the best leaders, as you can see in this chart here, look in the top right-hand corner, the best leaders have both, okay? Sometimes we just emphasize leaders being like these strong, individuals that get what they want and they just kind of power through. But the truth is that the best leaders across the board who get what they want, they have both of those things. The second piece of research is that we tend to undervalue warmth and overvalue the strength side of leadership. And what I want to say here is that there was a study that was done, and they basically took all these people and they asked them 2 questions. They said, number 1, I want you to tell me something you admire about yourself, and then I want you to tell me a trait that you admire about one of your mentors or somebody that you look up to. Okay, you guys still following me? Okay, so they asked them these 2 questions. And what was, the results were really interesting because when they were asked, when they got the data back and they asked themselves, what they said they admired about themselves, it was typically something strength related. Like, I passed my test this fast. Or, somebody did this and I stood up to them. But the kicker is when they asked what they admired about people that they, like mentors or people that they looked up to, they said something that was warmth-based. In other words, the thing that they admire most about others was something like, I saw them, pay for this person's meal, or I was really having a hard time and they were there for me and they listened to me and they were a good friend. And those are the things that we admire in other people. Does that make sense? Doesn't that just ring true? That hit me hard when I heard that. And then the third one, here's the third piece of research, which is in the top right, or the bottom right-hand corner. And essentially, it's that patients don't sue doctors that they like or that they have a connection with. And what I mean by that is the research showed, even in situations of malpractice and huge mistakes that these doctors were making, if the patient had a connection, positive connection with the doctor, they didn't sue him. But in situations where the doctor was more expert and more like just a better doctor and made fewer mistakes, they got sued almost 20 times more than doctors that were liked and had a connection. Does that surprise anybody else? Raise your hand if that's kind of like, wow, that's like that. And the reason that that's valuable is because once again, I think we tend to undervalue warmth. We undervalue that connection because when we don't have that connection, we create a lot of problems that could have been solved that are more emotional problems. Sometimes reps or sometimes people will tell you, or if you have a significant other, they'll tell you that the problem is something, but it's really something else. Do you know what I'm saying? Really what they need is to feel seen and validated or to feel appreciated. So I think that's why this really stands out to me. Okay, how to develop character. Number 1, do what you say. If you make a commitment, keep it. Number 2, get your personal life in order. Okay, you think people aren't looking at your personal life? Who you're dating, what you're eating, your addictions, whatever it is, they're looking, believe me. And clowns can only attract clowns. You want to become a person of character, get your personal life in order. Number 3, prioritize relationships. We talked a little about this, but having empathy, like take the time. Like I have a lot of weaknesses, but it's been said that I've always had really high rep retention, and I'm good with people. And the reason for that is because I genuinely care. I ask about their families, and I care. I want to know what their goals are because I want to see them win. I want to help them get those things. PIs. And there's more about this in the book. There's a whole template and script for PIs. You know what I mean when I say PIs? You guys doing your PIs? Performance interviews, like one-on-one performance interviews? Don't neglect your PIs, because this is the vehicle, like this is the situation where I built a lot of those relationships of trust, is those one-on-one meetings. So don't neglect your PIs. And then appreciation. This is just a quick story, but I had a rep that I had worked with for years, and he just started misbehaving. He just started, he just got really tough to work with. And every time I'd see him, it was always like this awkward vibe. And it was like, man, what is going on? And he would kind of act out, and it was like, what's gotten into this guy? I don't know. And so I'd sit him down and be like, hey, you got to knock it off. Like, this is cancer. Like, this is not a good behavior. And then, so I was just thinking about it. I was like, what is going on with this guy? And my wife, who's sitting right here, everyone say hi to Carrie. Carrie, she reminded me, she used to manage this gymnastics studio, and they had a plaque on the wall. And she reminded me of this plaque on the wall at this gymnastics studio. It said, the misbehaving child is the discouraged child. And it hit me. I was like, he's discouraged. He's discouraged. And the last time, so then I sit down with him. We go back to work, sit down with him. He's kind of like moping, like whatever. And I'm like, he thinks he's getting another tongue lashing or something. And I say, have I told you how much I appreciate you? Like, your contributions have been invaluable. Like, without you, like we just would not be where we are without the contributions you've made. And I just don't tell you that enough. And guys, I tell you, it was like this, like his behavior, his whole countenance, like everything changed, and I had no more issues with that behavior. So this is the power of showing appreciation. And once again, leaders that don't have that connection, they have to work a lot harder because they create a lot more issues. Okay, the last one is action. Leaders with action are respected and credible. And I'm looking at time here, so I'm just going to share one. Napoleon Bonaparte was known as a leader who led from the front. He was able to build a ton of influence because he was a warrior, and he was out there and he was on the front lines competing and fighting against armies where they were just kings and queens and castles sending people to do their bidding. And so with fewer people, he beat armies way bigger than him because he was there, and it gave so much influence and inspiration to his team. What action looks like is, number one, is execution. No hesitation. All offense, no defense. Other people in other departments, they're there to play defense. Your job is to play offense. That's what leaders with, it's shoot first, ask questions later. Number two, they're focused on the right activities, focused on value-add activities. They find out which activities move the needle, and they push that button over and over and over. And when people get distracted, they want to have long conversations, they're the person that brings them back to, let's go back to the value-add activity. And number three is lead by example. Okay, so these are the 4 multipliers. Vision, skill, character, and action. A leader might find themselves in a position of leadership because they have 1 or 2 of these, but they will not break out. You're not going to become great until you have all 4. Okay, it's all 4 that makes you rare and irreplaceable. It's what makes somebody, when you meet them, they just kind of shine. You're like, what is it that this person has? And it's these 4 attributes. When you have all 4, it creates a really well-rounded leader. A leader who's not just respected, but a leader who's inspiring. They get results, they're qualified, and they're respected. Does that make sense? You might have vision and skill, but you're persuasive and moving, but there's not a lot that separates you from being a scammer. You might have character and action, but you'll just lead a small, loyal team, but you're never going to scale until you develop the other 4. For years, we've said that the job of a leader is 4 things. It's number 1, to recruit, to train, to manage, and retain. When you have the 4 multipliers, you cover all 4 of those job descriptions. When you have vision, you're going to attract the right people. When you have skill, you're going to train effectively. When you have action, you're going to manage the right way. And when you have character, you're going to retain your people. Tony Robbins said the chokehold on the growth of any organization is the psychology and the skill set of the leader. This quote was really impactful for me. This answers the question of, where do you start? Where do you start? Great, so I got to have these 4 things. Where do I start? And the answer is, you start with your weakest multiplier first, because your weakest multiplier is acting like a clog in your pipe of the results that you're trying to get. You're only going to be as effective as your weakest multiplier. In other words, you have somebody who's really great at sales, but they're low in character. They need to stop reading sales books, and they need to start reading, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and How to Win Friends and Influence People. right? Like we have blind spots. These, someone was talking about blind spots earlier. Josh Holland, who's a stud, was talking about blind spots, and that's what we need to remove first. Ray Dalio said that everyone has at least one big thing standing in the way of their success. Find yours and deal with it. What is your one thing? By a show of hands, just quickly, and be honest, this is a safe place. Who wants to work on the attribute of vision? Who needs improvement on the attribute of vision? Okay, what about skill? Who wants to work on skill? Who needs to improve that? Okay. What about character? Okay, what about action? Who needs to get better at action? Good, pretty even. That's actually pretty cool. I was curious to see how it would be split. That was pretty even. So once again, but it's also unique because we find these teams and we find strengths and weaknesses with each other. So I love that. I'm looking at time, and I'll just kind of breeze through these, but these were, so with our team, we've always looked at it kind of like a sports team, where it's not personal, this is business. It's like, if you're on a sports team and you have one of your teammates who's holding you back because their sprints are too slow, they need to go work on their sprints so that the team can win. Like, this is how we make a living, this is how we feed our families. Let's look at this, look at ways that we need to improve. And we have these cool success stories of people that 1 year later, after addressing it and looking at the raw data, and the book has a survey that you guys can take, and it'll tell you what you're weakest in. Because again, you may not know, you may have a blind spot. But in this case, John doubled his team size, doubled his income. And Kevin, who was really just lazy, he was low in action, he finally bit the bullet and went out there and started leading from the front. And he tripled his team and tripled his income within 1 year. So what I want to tell you is this is not just some like feel-good personal development stuff. Like, this has tangible impacts on your income and the person that you're becoming. Like, this is, when you choose to get better at this stuff, you're going to like the person you become. You're going to start getting promoted, getting the promotions that you wanted, where before you were getting passed up and maybe you didn't know why. It might be because you had something that was holding you back. Jim Rohn said, learn to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. If you work hard on your job, you can make a living. Work hard on yourself, and you can make a fortune. So again, that leadership formula is I equals VSCA. The takeaways I want you to have is that, one, you need all four. Number 4 creates a really well-rounded leader with all the attributes you need to be successful in this job. Again, picture being dropped into any English-speaking country and have a skill set where you know how to succeed. Number 2 is remove the chokehold. Start with your weakest multiplier. Face the brutal facts. Confront it and bite the bullet. Number 3 is stop training reps and start training leaders. If you really want to grow, once again, it's going to take more than just a formula for training reps. You need leaders. You need people who can carry weight and who can help hold responsibility to help grow. And then number 4 is get serious about personal development. They say that not all readers are leaders, but all leaders are readers. Become a reader. Read the books. I'm out of time, but I'll tell you this. If you send me an email, I have a bunch of book recommendations for, if you raised your hand, you want to get better at some of these, send me an email and I'll forward you these slides. I'm happy to send these to you. They're also in the book. So once again, I have this book. It's on Audible. So if you like my voice, you can listen to I narrated it. I can talk, smooth to you in the car or whatever. It's also it's on Amazon as well. So it would mean the world to me. I'm trying to get more reviews. It'd mean the world to me if you left an honest review of the book. That would really help me out. And this is just your encouragement to keep going. I'm just so glad that I've stuck with this job through the ups and downs, and it's been so difficult over the years. But stick with it. Keep going. Keep going with vision, skill, character, and action. And I promise you this. In the end, it won't matter what product you sold or how much money you made. The thing that will matter the most to you will be the person that you became through it all. The real deal. That's what I got. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Oh, man.
Absolute masterclass right there from Alec. Anyone who knows Alec on a personal level knows that not only does he give phenomenal content, but he absolutely practices what he teaches.